Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. With the new year upon us, all kinds of things are going on in the news. Markets are moving and changing, and we're all facing an uncertain future. What's a real estate investor to do? Be prepared. Today we'll talk about practical prepping ideas for a prosperous new year and beyond on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
If you love real estate and have always wanted to own your own business, listen up. The Real Estate Guys and their panel of experts want to teach you how to go full-time fast in the real estate syndication business. These next few years may go down in history as one of the best times ever to acquire investment real estate. There are deals everywhere if you know where to look and how to assemble the resources. The Secrets of Successful Syndication seminar will show you how to make big money doing big deals from a team of experts that have syndicated projects totaling more than $1 billion. Don't wait for someone to give you a raise or create a job for you. Attend the Secrets of Successful Syndication and learn how to build a team, raise capital, find deals, and make full-time money in 6 months or less. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events. All the big players use syndication as a way to diversify risk, optimize profits, and earn big money. You can too. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click on events.
Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms, and seated next to me, the co-host, financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
You know, lots of great stuff happens at the beginning of a new year, and if you've been listening to the show so far, the year's just a little tarnished. It's mostly shiny and new. We're sitting here in beautiful Lake Las Vegas, where we just completed our annual Goals Retreat, which is an incredible event. We had more than double the number of people we've ever had who came to create their future.
Yeah, I think there's a reason for that. Not only that the event has a great reputation, and I think people come back over and over again. They tell their friends. It's a big part in our mentoring program with our syndicators for them to figure out who they are before they go build a business and obligate themselves to managing other people's capital. And I think a lot of people who start businesses of any kind don't take enough time to really think about who they are, what they want, what they're really doing, who they want to serve. They just start trying to make money. But the other thing is, I think that what's going on in the world right now is a lot of people are really rethinking their priorities. They're rethinking their future. Some people are being locked out of careers and industries because of policies that they don't agree with. And that's just a reality. There's a lot of people moving from one state to another because of the political climate. The government maybe overreach. Some people think in certain states and more freedom in other states. Part of it is the demographic, people moving into retirement because of baby boomers. I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now that are creating a lot of societal change. And it isn't doom and gloom necessarily, but it is rapid and it's rampant and it's obvious. Inflation, for example, is something that people are really feeling for the first time. And people are desperate to understand not just what's going on externally, but what's going on internally. And I think not enough people do that work. So I was really gratified to see how many people came out. And of course, the reviews and all the feedback was just over the top. You crushed it, as you always do. But from what I've heard, and I wasn't at the event, sadly, I opened on the opening night, but had to leave to go to a different event, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment. But everybody qualified to have an opinion said it was your best presentations moderating the workshop that you've ever done. So congratulations, and congratulations to all of you listening that were part of it.
Met a bunch of new friends and saw a bunch of old friends as well. This is only the second time in more than 25 years of doing this event that we had more new people come than alumni. Because last year there were about 100, not quite 140, and nearly 90 signed up to come back, which says a lot. And yet we added another 200 people. So just crazy, awesome. And, people leave enthused about their new future. At the same time, and really, had you not have left and gone to the other event, we wouldn't even probably have come up with this show idea. But here people were at this event preparing for their future. And then you flew to our good friend George Gammon's event, the Rebel Capitalist, which we'll definitely want to talk about. And one of the things that came up there is this idea of how do we prepare for what may be coming next. So in two very different ways, two groups of people in different parts of the country were preparing and thinking about the future.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that going on. George had, I think, 600 or 700 people there, and he's now doing this thing twice a year. So I think he's getting ready to do it again mid-year, and I'm looking forward to going back. We're working more tightly together to make sure that we don't step on each other's calendars so we can participate in each other's events. We're excited to have George coming out to our investor summit this summer. And we had a conversation as he's planning his date. And he goes, well, where should I put it? And I said, well, leave enough space so that people can do both, because I think people need to do both.
Yeah.
But even outside of these two events, what George is doing or what Ed Griffin is doing with his Red Pill Expo, and many other people, the New Orleans Investment Conference, the Freedom Fest with Mark Skousen, we participate in all these events because we like hearing what other people have to say, what other people are thinking, what other people are doing. We like interacting and meeting these people because in our world, they're the right people. They're proactive. They're going to be the catalyst for creating the solutions of the future, whatever those look like. They're going to be the people that see things. It was a Freedom Fest, I don't know, back in 2011 or 2012 that we first heard about Bitcoin.
Right.
And we joke about that because we didn't listen well enough, and that was our fault. But the fact is we were exposed. We had an opportunity. Now, we missed that one, but there's many other opportunities that we found and gotten because we get out there. So the world is still open. In fact, in some degrees from what it was in 2020 with the big, initial rollout of COVID and the lockdowns, it's more open. And I think that there's a little bit of backlash, people wanting to get out. But I would encourage you, if you're listening to this, and there's a couple of components. One is make sure you're out there building relationships with people. Make sure you're putting good ideas in your head and really paying attention to the pace of change and the variety of change. And it's hard because you can't go to any one place and get it all. We try to be pretty broad focused. We're real estate guys and everything kind of has a real estate spin, but we wander all over the map because we found out that real estate really is affected by all kinds of things going on all around us, and sometimes things that we don't necessarily pay attention to or even aware of.
It's so important individually that we have preparation in our heart for our day, right? You wake up and if you don't run the day will run you. And so what do? Well, we get our to-do list, we get our calendar, we organize our calls, we figure our trips. That's just preparing. Most people don't take the time to really go deep on what they want out of life, and who do they want to be with, and what do they want to spend their time doing. And we did a lot of that introspection this week, and people came out with amazing clarity. They stayed up last night for many hours and read every single post-assessment. Any Real Estate Guys event, we're going to give you the yellow sheet and ask what you thought. And oh my gosh, heart and soul and changes and things people are going to do and big epiphanies. It was astonishing. Then on the other side, inflation. So inflation has been going on forever. But when it moves slowly, you don't really notice. Yeah, gas went up, 3 cents this week. And yeah, Starbucks raised their coffee by 10 cents. But what's happened in the last quarter is inflation has gone up nearly 7% in 3 months. And now people are noticing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about this at last year's summit. It was my opening presentation. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is inflation is really just more currency being created, and it dilutes the value of the existing currency. You can cover up a lot of that with productivity. But the reality is you're introducing more currency. The natural state of productivity is a decrease in cost, right? Every entrepreneur out there is putting in time and effort and creative energy, new systems, better people, better training, better processes to try to find a way to drive costs down, to drive profit up, to be able to pay their people more and retain and hire better people, put in better systems, produce more, offer a better value to their customers, and gain market share.
Well, here's a simple example. I remember when I bought the house across the lake that you and I are looking at, and we put in a 50-inch plasma TV. Now, at the time, that television was $10,000. Right now at Costco is an 85-inch, beautiful 4K television for under $1,500.
Yeah.
It's a better product at a lower price in the midst of a pandemic and logistics and all that. But to your point, all of those assets, the intellectual property and getting better and engineering and all those things have driven the price down, which is what should happen. At the same time, as real estate investors, my house is worth more money. Yeah, but here's the big yeah, but if you were to sell, take all that money and go to Starbucks, you aren't getting any more Starbucks. You're getting probably less than if you had sold your house 2 years ago and gone to Starbucks. No one thinks about it that way. As real estate investors, we tend to think, oh, inflation's great. Equity's happening. It is. but the equity isn't the same as it used to be.
No, well, not at all. And that's why you have to use leverage, and that's why you have to try to find a way to outpace inflation. So an investor's mindset changes. It's why you see so much leverage in the financial markets, because when inflation is occurring, and it's always occurring, and the manifestation of that, especially in the bond market, is decreasing interest rates. As interest rates are going down, it means bond prices are inflating. That's what's happening. And so when the financial system is very levered up on all of those bonds and interest rates start to creep up, that's a problem. But when inflation starts to creep up, it's a huge problem for the investor. If I'm buying a 1% bond and inflation is 3%, my real yield is -2.
Right.
So I've got to find a way to use leverage to get that 1 to be worth 4 or 5. So if I can lever myself multiple times, then the way we think of it with real estate, if I put 20% down on a property, 1/5, and I get 4/5, $80,000 of loan, I own 5/5 or 100% of the property, but I only have 1/5 in, and the rest is leverage. So I'm at 5-to-1 leverage. If that property moves 2%, I get 10% growth on my equity. And you can, replay this and then go back and do the math, and you'll see that this is true. Or find it in our book. You can find a vintage copy of Equity Happens.
I signed a couple of those yesterday.
Yeah, we do that math for you. But the people in the bond markets are doing the same thing. And the challenge with that in the financial system is there is so much debt, because this has been going on for so very, very long, that any rise in interest rates is absolutely devastating to the balance sheets of all these people that are holding these bonds. And that is the financial system. When you understand that basic concept, and if that kind of went past you, I was very fortunate enough to do an episode of Ken McElroy's show, and it was probably just a couple weeks ago. And we kind of went deep into this. So rather than take the time to do that here, go back and listen to that, and you'll kind of understand. But it's the fundamental flaw of our financial system, and it requires inflation. And once you understand that inflation is required, not just the 2% that the Fed has on their mandate on their website, but a whole lot more, because if 2% was the target, they've blown that out of the water, right? They should be adjusting, and they're talking about adjusting. But if it's so bad, why aren't you adjusting faster? So far, it's all been talk. Peter Schiff has been adamant for the longest time that the Fed is painted into a corner, and they're not going to be able to do it. And so if something's wrong and you can't fix it, then the question you have to ask is, where's it going to manifest? How's it going to break? And what do I need to do to prepare for it?
So all that background is to tee us up, to give you some actual things you can be thinking about and doing to prepare. Nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know what's coming next. Maybe the stock market continues to go up. Maybe real estate in all the markets you're in just continues to go up, and rents go up, and everything's sunshine and roses. But we're a little long in the tooth in this cycle, and we have to be able to prepare for both sunshine and rain. When we come back, we'll give you some practical prepping ideas for a prosperous future today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
Self-storage is an asset class that has stood the test of time. Going into the Great Recession of 2008, self-storage had the least negative impact of any of its commercial real estate peers, and it had explosive growth coming out of that time during the recovery. Fast forward to 2020, and you'll see that same pattern during some of the worst part of the pandemic. Hi, my name is Dave Zook, founder and CEO of The Real Asset Investor. Our operating partners are some of the best in the business, and we've had great success over the last decade buying mom-and-pop operated self-storage facilities and taking them to the next level by forcing value through increasing the square footage, adding climate-controlled units, bringing in our professional management teams, and turning the project into an institutional target. We have self-storage investment opportunities available for accredited investors who are interested in investing in this space for cash flow, tax impact, and huge equity appreciation. Reach out to us today at selfstorage@realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, ever wished you could go back in time and do some tax planning? Now you can, just like Marty McFly. Lucky for you, a brand new federal law just made this possible with an EQRP to get tax deductions and reduce your taxable income from last year, so you can use that tax savings to invest in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, even your own business. Whether you're a full-time investor, doctor, government employee, even if you have 5 or 50 employees, the EQRP works and is your secret weapon, and now it's retroactive. Hey, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. By the way, if you got bad advice and used an IRA for an apartment syndication, you are sitting on a U-bit time bomb. But don't worry, there's a solution, the EQRP. EQRP company is ready to help you get control of your money, kill UBIT, and help you pay way less taxes. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report. Paying tax or letting Wall Street suck you dry is dumb. Your first step is freeing your retirement money by sending an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hey everybody, it's Ken McElroy, and I'm on with the Real Estate Guys, and I'm very excited to be a guest and a speaker at the Investor Summit on the Sand in Belize coming up. If you haven't signed up, be sure to do so.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, heard every weekend on this great radio station, all the time at realestateguysradio.com and at your favorite podcast outlets. We're talking about getting prepared for not only the new year, but with all the changes and with the rampant inflation and with everything going on, how can we be better prepared come what may? One of our favorite books is called Prosper by Chris Martenson and Adam Taggart. And in that book, they discuss the 8 forms of capital. And a lot of times people only think of capital as the financial capital, but there's so many more. And it's a great backdrop for preparing. In fact, one of the words they use a ton is resilience, being resilient. And as people, we spent a lot of time this weekend talking about resilience, right? In terms of being ready for whatever may happen, that I'm going to bounce back, I'm going to rise up. It sounds like things aren't going so well in so many places, but you have it within your control to make changes. So, Russ, you just got back from George Gammon's event. In fact, you were on a panel that was all about this. So take us through that and share some of the highlights, because there were some pretty smart people talking about this stuff.
Yeah, it was fabulous. And it was really an honor, as it always is, to get invited by any conference promoter to sit on a panel, especially when your co-panelists are pretty notable folks. You know, I had that New Orleans investment experience with Jim Rickards and Daniel DiMartino Booth and John Najarian. And, I felt like I was in way over my head. But I was there, to represent the real estate guys in the real estate space, if you will, and the real estate perspective. And it was fun.
And you rocked it, by the way.
Thank you. And I didn't feel like it, but, I'm just glad I survived without getting laughed off the stage. But at George's event, these guys are heady. I mean, these guys are smart, and they're talking about the inner bowels workings of the financial system. And, and a lot of it is still paper asset focused. And so I thought this was going to be a financial panel. And what it turned out to be is the whole theme is, how are you preparing? What are you seeing people do to prepare? How do you prepare? And I went, what a great topic. I was so happy to be on that panel. My co-panelists, George moderating, were Lynette Zang, who is a popular YouTuber. She runs a company. She's like Dana Samuelson. She's in the gold business, precious metals business, very concerned about what's going on, very practical in her prepping approach. Some people might say she's a little alarmist, a little tinfoil hattish, but she's right. I'm right there with her. So, it was fine. So it was kind of old home week, even though we'd never met. I'm looking forward to developing our relationship with Lynette. And then the other panelist was a guy I've heard about forever and always heard so many great things about, but really never got to know, Mike Dillard.
Yeah.
And so it was just the three of us as the panelists and George as the moderator. And so George asked a question. We kind of went down the line, and I'm glad I was positioned so that I got to go last. You know me, I like the back cleanup.
Always the best.
Right? I love it when you do the interview and I just get to come in on the back end and kind of process what happened and unpack it a little bit. So Lynette opened up with really her practical prepping tips, obviously had to do with the banking system and being liquid and being outside the currency, and precious metals was the obvious thing. So she didn't spend too much time on that because it was obvious to everybody in that room. But still, you don't want to overlook it. That's an important part of it.
Hey, if you've not really gotten your mind around precious metals, just send an email to silverseries@realestateguysradio.com. Our friend Dana Samuelson and Russ put together an awesome tutorial on understanding silver, which will help you understand gold. So if you don't have your mind around the metals, silverseries@realestateguysradio.com.
Yeah, so she got into talking really about food, being able to grow enough food on her own. So it was clear, inferred in all of that, she has major concerns about the supply chain. Yeah. And maybe the price of food, although I think she's probably less concerned about the price as the availability, right? People who are on the more affluent scale aren't worried about the price. They're worried about the availability. I had a conversation with a young man, kind of a debate, and he's into this whole metaverse thing and making money and da-da-da. And I'm just like, well, where's the production in that? Because I understand making the money or making the currency, but where's the wealth? He didn't even understand what I was asking him. He couldn't separate the two. I said, I don't care if I walk into a restaurant with an American Express black card and there is no food in the kitchen, it doesn't matter how wealthy I am, I'm not eating.
Right.
And this is true in a society. I don't care how much money they print. If the supply chain is destroyed, if the people who aren't affluent, who do the real work, who create the real products of food, the energy, everything that we need, and they're not able to survive, they're not able to work, or the businesses that create the infrastructure for them to be productive don't exist or can't prosper, everything starts to fall apart. That's why communism, socialism has never, ever worked in the history of mankind. I'm not saying necessarily that's where we're going. I'll leave you to form your own opinion, but we certainly cannot deny that our supply chain has been disrupted. It's been a major topic of discussion. So Lynette's preparation had to do with being able to have the bare essentials of life right in her backyard, literally. So she has the capacity to grow food for 40 people. She's got a pool that has the kind of water in it that can be easily filtered for drinking and irrigation. Really practical tips, and she spent a lot of time on that. And then she's bought, some land up to kind of have a bug out. So her property is located in Phoenix, right in the heart of Phoenix. And so she can live off the grid right in Phoenix for a period of time until things get reestablished or whatever. But then she's got a place to bug out in case the world gets crazy, because hungry people do desperate things. You just have to look at any of these natural disasters, and how the marauders come out and people, we've seen it with Hurricane Sandy, we've seen it with Katrina, in New Orleans. I mean, you see it all the time. And so you just realize that most people are not prepared for a disruption of anything. And if you happen to be the person who is, then you become the store. You become the place to go to fill your needs, and usually at your expense.
It's one of the things Chris Martenson talks about regularly, but in the book Prosper, which you should definitely get and read, it's not a doom and gloom book at all. It's let's go figure out some ways to be super resilient, and if nothing bad ever happens, we'll have more organic vegetables in our life, right? But he talks about the idea of getting to where you are, imagine you're even growing 3% of your own calories, which you can do with a small herb garden and maybe a couple of fruit trees, right? Just 3% has you feeling as though you're contributing. And then he says, when you really think about being prepared, your neighbors aren't likely to. So either social capital, get your neighbors together, have this discussion and talk about ways we can prepare together, maybe do some community farming, or you better have more than just your family's needs figured out, because your hungry neighbors are coming over.
Yeah. And what I heard, of course, I'm sitting there as a real estate guy. I'm just hearing a real estate play.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, well, why not syndicate community farms? Why not go buy a plot of land right somewhere in town and get 10 or 20 families all to chip in, run it together, or hire people to run it, sell the produce into the market, consume the produce yourself, and save on your shopping budget, get better organic, locally grown food, and have a guaranteed supply that is abundant, not just for you and the families that have invested, but for your community. That's just a straight up real estate play. So there are practical things that you can do as a real estate investor to actually help prepare, not just take care of your own family, to your point, Robert, but actually take care of your community. And that was another one of the big topics that came up, was just the concept of community and how important it is to have local community. I know as our business transitioned from being based in Santa Clara County, where we knew everybody and we had everybody, our businesses were located there, and we began to live in hotels and airplanes and began podcasting, and all of a sudden it was a local radio show. We had the national radio show and then the national podcast, and people coming to our events from all over. When we get together with our tribe, I love it. I mean, they're my friends. I get so enthused. I mean, I'm jazzed right now because I've just spent time with everybody. It's fantastic. But then I look at a world where travel might be limited or prohibited, or have to travel under conditions under which I might not want to travel. So all of a sudden I realize, I personally need to go about the business of creating local community. Well, how do I find those people? Well, the same way we find them now, and so I have a plan for that. And in 2022, and I'm excited about that. We had a conversation with our mentoring club about that the other day, and they're excited about it. So I think we're going to be, unrolling some of those things, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit today. But however you choose to do it, whether it's participating in your local church, getting involved in sports with your kids, find a way to get connected, but don't just have it be about the activity at hand. Take it to the next level. Think about how you can combine resources, which is syndicating, and it doesn't have to be complicated, or that you can create some type of a mutual support group, where, hey, I've got your back, you've got mine. Just a little bit extra preparation in terms of talking through, hey, if this happened, if the power went down, if the supply chain broke down, How do you guys want to handle it? How can we best support each other? Just start having those conversations.
The reality is there's a lot of strain in the systems. Everybody's seen the picture of all those ships out waiting to be unloaded, and everyone's also probably experienced walking into a store of any kind and seeing areas where the shelves are a little more bare. That's the result of what's happened. Even during the lockdown, everyone knows of situations where someone's staying at home and still getting a check. But the problem is they're staying at home, so they're not creating the goods and services they used to be that the dollars they're getting paid are going to go out and get. So there's more dollars, but there's not more stuff. This is what Peter Schiff talks about all the time. If you go to the store and there's no stuff because you were sitting on the couch instead of going to the factory every day, then pretty soon, to your point, Russ, it doesn't matter how many dollars you have. I will tell you this, that after I read Prosper and learned of the 8 forms of capital, and after we struck up a great friendship with Chris and Adam, who are now doing 2 different things in remarkable ways, one of the gifts I gave my wife was a little organic garden it's about 9 by 9. And we grow tomatoes, and we grow arugula, and we grow mint, and we grow lots of different things that we use. And not only does it taste great, it's this pride you have when you're eating your salad and most of it came out of your own garden. It's all organic. There's no GMO, there's no pesticides and that kind of stuff if you're into that. But not even that. So sometimes when you say the word prepping, you get this connotation of these guys that are living in these bunkers and they go out and see daylight once a month when they go get the stockpile. That's not what we're talking about necessarily. Part of the preparation is mental, and part of it is thinking through. We're so conditioned. Look at what happens in Europe. A lot of folks in a lot of small European markets go to the grocery store every day. They go and see what's there, and then they buy a few things, and they come home, and they don't have big refrigerators. They don't store up cases and cases of stuff. And then you look at the United States, where we go to warehouse stores, and we buy in bigger bulk. And one of the things Chris recommends is a deep pantry. If you're going to buy stuff that has long shelf life, rather than buy 1 or 2 cans of beans, buy 2 cases of beans. Oh yeah, it's costing a little more today, but with inflation running, you'll probably save money. So again, practical tips. When we come back, we'll talk about some more things you can do, or at least think about doing as you prepare for what's coming next. And we'll play real estate trivia. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Real Estate Guys listeners, are you tired of losing real estate deals due to financing issues? Have you had enough of waiting on banks, lenders, and investor groups to fund new projects? What if there were a way to eliminate all the hassle and invest in real estate on your own terms? I'm here to tell you there is. Patrick Donahoe here from Paradigm Life. I'm an Investopedia Top 100 Most Influential Financial Advisor, and I recently wrote a best-selling book about the financial strategy that changed my entire investment model, and the one that could change yours. To get a copy of my book for free and learn how you can maximize your real estate portfolio by acting as your own bank, send an email to mybank@realestateguysradio.com. Don't make another real estate deal without reading my book first. Email mybank@realestateguysradio.com now to get your copy for free.
When it comes to successful rental property investing, it pays to be picky. Pick the right markets, pick profitable properties, and pick great property management. That's easier said than done, but we've got great news. Terry Kerr and his rockstar team at Mid-South Homebuyers are going strong in Memphis, Tennessee, and Little Rock, Arkansas, too. So for a top-notch turnkey single-family home rental property, whether you're a new investor or have a large portfolio already, pick Terry Kerr and Mid-South for a truly A-plus investing experience. To learn more, send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That's midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. Registration is now open for the Real Estate Guys 20th Annual Investors Summit. Imagine spending an entire week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals. Returning in 2022, the editor of the Gold newsletter, Brian London, international real estate developer Beth Clifford, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin, Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner, Kyle Wilson, and the rebel capitalist, George Gammon. And joining us live and in person for his 10th Investor Summit, best-selling author and the Rich Dad advisor for real estate, Ken McElroy. Plus, lots more to be announced. It all begins June 10th, 2022 in beautiful Belize. Visit realestateguysradio.com and click the tab that says Summit to reserve your spot. Go to realestateguysradio.com, click Summit, and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys, George Gammon, Ken McElroy, and an all-star faculty on the 20th Annual Investor Summit on Sand.
Hi, this is Mauricio Raul, founder and CEO of Premier Law Group, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. If you're feeling cold this winter, it might be time to pack the swim trunks and join me in beautiful Ambergris Caye, Belize for our Belize Discovery trip. Now in its 16th year, we'll show you the market like nobody else can and have a great time. All the details on the website at realestateguysradio.com under events. We're talking about preparing for an uncertain future and some practical prepping ideas, come what may. Before we get back to our discussion, let's play real estate trivia. That's your chance to win a prize by knowing today's real estate trivia question. Just a minute, I'll give you a question that has something to do with real estate. As soon as you think you know the answer, get your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. You'll need to give us your name, the answer to the question, and your physical mailing address so that if you're the winner, we can send you this awesome book in the spirit of today's discussion called Resilience, Turning Your Setback into a Comeback, a collection of cool anecdotes, stories, and tips from some great folks put together by our good friend Kyle Wilson. That can be yours if you know today's real estate trivia question. Last week on the show, we were discussing some defensive strategies for real estate investors, and we asked this: a new day and a new year, for that matter, starts at the international dateline. When was it established? You know that mythical place on the globe where one day becomes a new day? Well, the line is an artificial boundary set up in 1884 to separate two consecutive calendar dates, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And it's a little bit crazy to think about. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. Name the most expensive zip code in the United States. Yep, of all the places you can live, which zip code has the highest median sales price? If you think you know, you want to guess, or you're fortunate enough to live there, give us your answer by sending an email to trivia@realestateguysradio.com, trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Along with the answer, send your name and mailing address. The winner will get this awesome book, Resilience, Turning Your Setback into a Comeback. That's today's real estate trivia question. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Hopefully we haven't lost you with all this talk about preparing, but it's work to get prepared. And the first work is thinking through this stuff. So the way this weekend lined up was awesome. I know, Russ, you really were hesitant to leave this event, but we knew George's event was coming. We're like, well, let's divide and conquer. I got this, you go do that. And I'm actually so glad you did, because not only did you meet more folks, but you got on this amazing panel and started thinking about some of this stuff. So what are some of the other ideas that were shared on the panel?
Well, it was interesting because, you mentioned earlier this idea, hey, we're not talking about, guys hiding in bunkers with, AR-15s. And then Dillard starts talking about The Fourth Turning by Neil Howe.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other co-author, so forgive me, but The Fourth Turning. And if you're familiar with it, it says that about every 80 years, there's this major turn. And what he said, and I've not read the book, it's on my bookshelf. I have it on my list.
I bought it too. I haven't read it.
Yeah, it's sitting literally right on my nightstand. But the point that he made was that every fourth turning in history has ended in a hot war, a kinetic war.
Yeah.
And that we're at that phase where we're moving towards that. Now, whether that means it's war on the streets of the United States, right, which is rare, part of the advantage the United States has already had, and you may not like it, but the fact is there are millions, hundreds of millions of guns out there on the streets of Main Street, the streets of America. And this would be a very difficult land to conquer on the ground because the citizenry is so well armed. And so the people who are into that are busy preparing. And so he actually is involved in taking tactical training, and he's buying the type of equipment and the things that you would have, along with another Bugout ranch like Lynette, a place to go just to ride things out until whatever chaos happens in a transition settles down. And again, go back to this idea, if you remember Hurricane Katrina. Literally flooded all of New Orleans, 500,000 people displaced. Well, in the course of that, as people are abandoning their properties, there are people coming in and marauding and, taking advantage of the chaos. And it's basically lawless. And so you have to have some place to go. And so everybody fled. I mean, I remember we were on a trip in New York and we had refugees from New Orleans being placed in hotels. We were getting bumped out of hotels in New York City because of what was going on in New Orleans. That's how many people got displaced and how far the ripples of that literally reached out.
Yeah.
So the idea that these people have that want to have a place is not that they're going to go live there forever, that the world is going to end. It's going to be this post-atomic apocalypse. I mean, I guess some people think that could happen and you're just going to want to be somewhere off ground zero and hope you can survive. But I think it's really just a place to go until the craziness that happens in the world when the people who aren't prepared kind of get back under control and society becomes civil again. But at any rate, so there's people out there doing that. And I shared this idea, and I got this idea from you. We did it with a beach condo in Mexico way back in the day. It's like we had a friend who really wanted a beach condo. He couldn't afford the beach condo all by himself. Like, how can I do this? And first of all, what he said, we were on an airplane. I remember we were on Southwest Airlines. I remember we were flying to San Antonio. And he said, I can't afford it. And of course, you can't say those words to Robert or I because we don't like those words. And so Robert said, well, what if you could afford it, right? How could you afford it? And it just basically mapped out a strategy, and I've shared it many times. It was $450,000 condo, needed to put about $50,000 into a kitty to pay for maybe $30,000 of furniture and amenities, and then $20,000 operating cash. I mean, it was kind of the rough budget. So it was a $500,000 total all-in budget or syndication. Sliced it into 10 pieces. Everybody got 10 shares for $50,000. Now, I bought a share, which meant I got 3 weeks of personal use. So I had 3 weeks of vacation time in this luxury condo on the beach, and I got the revenue from the other 20 weeks because 10 owners got 3 weeks each. That's 30 weeks. And then we rented it out the rest of the time, the 20 weeks. And the way I structured it is I borrowed money from a property. And so the income I got off the 20 weeks paid the mortgage payment on the $50,000. And when it was all said and done, I was in for free.
Yeah.
And so I just took that same concept and applied it to this concept, what I call resiliency ranches. What if you could go out and buy, 100, 200 acres somewhere, a couple, 3 hours outside of towns, and maybe you're $3 million all in to buy the land and put in all the buildings and stuff. That's kind of my rough budget because that's what I'm working on right now. And you slice it into 10 pieces, $300,000 each. I find 10 local families that I would want to live with in a bug-out situation. And we all go up there and we bring our money, we bring our family, we bring our skills, and we take care of each other while this thing blows over. Okay, and if you do the math with a mortgage involved, if you're moving equity from a property you own to something up there, you're probably $200-300 a month to have this, right? So all of a sudden, people's eyes are lighting up like, wow, this is achievable. Yes, it's totally achievable. But you take it to a next level. Just like I mentioned earlier with the community farm, you can do the same model with the community farm. You actually have something that's valuable when you're not using it. And so think about an Airbnb for a bug-out ranch. In other words, what I call it a dude ranch for preppers. You find people out there that say, I don't know anything about hunting. I don't know anything about living off the land. I don't know anything about fishing or gutting or planting or harvesting or canning. I don't know how to do any of that. I'd like to know how to do that, just to add that to my skills just in case. Well, you go up there and you take a 2-week vacation. And you live and work on a working ranch and people are up there helping you do it. So the vision that I've got personally is that, we have these all over the place. And the more people who are helping other people and creating abundance so that they can take care of themselves and more people, that's the secret. If you go back in our history as a country, the very first settlement in the United States, before it was the United States, in the new world in America, was the Plymouth Rock settlement. And in the Plymouth Rock settlement, they decided to take care of each other because they were in this tough new world. And so it was basically a commune, and they all lived together and they were going to work, and everybody contributed and everybody got what they needed. The problem is they weren't very productive because everybody expected somebody else to do it and people were taking more than they were giving. And so finally, the governor of that settlement, and I've got his journal. I mean, they've reprinted his journal. You can literally literally read his own words back from the 1600s and what he was going through, what he was thinking, what he decided to do, and how it turned out. It's a fascinating read. And if you really want to compare how communism works versus free market capitalism, what happened is he said, look, this isn't working. Here, you get an acre of land. You're on your own. Feed your family. And every single family was so diligent to work to create enough for their family. They created more than their family needed. And all of a sudden, the community had abundance, and they were able to take care of those people in the community who were not able to be productive because they had physical limitations or whatever. And so free market capitalism actually created the prosperity and abundance and charity that they were after in their communistic model, which failed. And so if you're not familiar with that, if you're a young person and you hear all this talk about how wonderful the world could be if everybody just got free money from the government and nobody had to go to work and stimmy checks and all that stuff, and you don't understand the concept that American Express Black Card in a restaurant or a store with nothing on the shelf is worthless. If you don't understand that, then go read that, and it'll help you understand that productivity is wealth. And you can create that productivity simply by syndicating a community farm, syndicating a Bugout place, and turning it into like a giant Airbnb for people who want to have that type of experience. And then you always have the ability to draw upon it for yourself. So you're taken care of, your family is taken care of, your community is taken care of. So that was a very practical real estate guy's tip that came out at George's event. And people, I think, really received it well. And I'm personally, it just got me stoked because I thought, okay, I'm not living in fantasy land. I'm not a crazy person, because these other very smart people that I have a lot of respect for think in the same way that I'm thinking. I know Chris Martinson's done that. And there's people out there doing it. You can do it too.
You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. More when we come back. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me from April 1st to 4th in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 15 years now, and our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful, the people are wonderful, and wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. Demand for offshore real estate has skyrocketed since the coronavirus shutdown, and with retirees looking for lifestyle, the work-from-home workforce able to be productive from afar, and tourism coming back strong, now may be the perfect time to consider Belize as a place to diversify risk in your investment portfolio. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong and contracts are in English. And on Ambergris Caye, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me in April in Ambergris Caye, Belize as we study the market, learn about the sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so that you can follow up with them after the trip if the market is interesting to you. You've heard about Belize and the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what the excitement is all about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on events, where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trip. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates as well as travel details. So join me in Belize April 1st through 4th. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities, and the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize.
Hi, I'm Nomi Prinz, author of Collusion. You're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio show. Hey, if you've ever thought about raising money to buy an apartment building, a bowling alley, or a prepping ranch, then come on out to the Secrets of Successful Syndication. It's our 2-day course on how you can acquire lots of real estate with the help of other people, or how you can passively invest with folks that are doing big deals. Get all the details by sending an email to syndication at realestateguysradio.com. Syndication, that's with a Y, at realestateguysradio.com. We're talking today about getting your mind around being prepared if things go great, being prepared if they don't. We're seeing civil unrest and war and all kinds of things in other countries. People are listening to this show in more than 190 countries. So wherever you are, the time to prepare is now. The time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining.
That's what John F. Kennedy said.
Yep.
One of the other things that kind of came up, and I tried to close out with a checklist, and so I think this is a good way to close out this episode as well. It starts out with just your education. You've got to get educated, meaning you probably want to listen to George Gammon, brilliant teacher, brilliant guy, understand what he's talking about. Listen to some of these other people. Of course, you're listening to us. Go to the events where you can really get around other people. And, the way Robert Kiyosaki teaches learning, you have to really be focused and in the event present, if you will. And then as you're absorbing the information, you have conversations with other people that have absorbed and observed the same information. And then you process together. And that's how your learning really goes deep. That's why as much as YouTube videos are great and podcasts are great and books are great, book studies are better. Live events where you get into conversations with people, even better than that. I mean, it's really, really important. So get your education going. And then the next step is, the social capital component, the idea that really find a way, create a mastermind group. I'm starting one in the Phoenix area with my daughter, and we're just going to start getting together with people once a month. And we're going to be talking about primarily investing and observing what's going on. And how do we build financial resilience in this type of an environment? Not just hunker down, and how do we avoid getting wiped out? I mean, that's important too. All the lessons I learned in 2008. But how do you prosper going through it? How do you be a thriving survivor, if you will? And so I think that's really, really important to build that community locally as you can make it. And so create a club, join a club, get involved. I think that's really important.
In fact, many years ago, we did a show on starting your own investment club if there wasn't one around. And you can get access to that by sending an email to club@realestateguysradio.com, club@realestateguysradio.com. And later this year, as we roll out some of what we're doing in that space, we'll let you know about it too.
Yeah. And so it's just a great way to get together with like-minded people without having to get on an airplane or pay a big ticket tuition, and so that's a way to do it. So we're going to do that. And the other reason that's important to me is because I have children and grandchildren, where I live, and I want to teach them. One of the things Lynette is doing is she's getting together with her 8-year-old grandson, and she's teaching him economics at 8 years old.
Yeah.
And she says, if I can explain it to an 8-year-old, I can certainly explain it to a 25-year-old. I'm like, that's a good point. And so I said, I asked her, I said, hey, if you're going to be teaching your grandchildren, I'm going to be teaching my grandchildren. Why don't we get together and do it together? And she's interested. So we'll see how that develops. But you can find those types of alliances. Again, just like in business, there are people out there who are facing or have faced and solved the very same problems you are. The same thing is true in raising your children and enlightening a young person in your life who's maybe bought off into a worldview that is going to lead to restrictions on your freedom or oppression of your wealth. So this is a way to do it in a practical way. So I'm big on this concept of community and educating the younger generation. Of course, when I look around me at now where I'm at in life, everybody's the younger generation. In fact, there's like 2 or 3 younger generations below me. But I'm kind of like the wise old owl now, I'd like to believe, and I have a chance to impart some of that. And I want to do that before, my time here is over.
Well, and if you have it on your heart to help people, there's all kinds of ways that you can create these kinds of communities. And on the other hand, if you're in a community where there's already something set up, you can seek that out too. People are doing all kinds of meetups. We obviously like the meetups that talk about real estate. There's folks playing cash flow games, which is a great way to get your mind around finances and your income statements and balance sheets and the stuff that didn't seem like fun in school, but really has practical aspects. And then if there's not a club in your area, as we say, go form one. The other thing is to get around people that have this level of thinking, right? We're all stimulated because we've been around hundreds of people who are thinking differently and are being prepared in various ways in their life. This weekend, coming up in June, it's our big granddaddy event where some of the biggest thinkers and folks who are right center in this space are going to be. That's our 20th annual Investors Summit on Sand. We used to do it on a cruise ship, but that's harder and harder to do these days. So now we're doing it in beautiful Belize. And we've got an incredible faculty of people. But not only that, The attendees are all doers. They're out there doing, moving, shaking, moving the needle. It's just an extraordinary place to be. And we carve out 30 spots for young adults. And those young adults, ages 18 to 25, pay a tuition, but it's less than the cost of putting the event on for them. And if they can't afford the tuition, we have a scholarship program.
Yeah, and it's just fantastic to see these young people. In fact, I ran into an alumni of that at George Gammon's event.
Yeah.
And he was there, and I was like, wow, I know you from somewhere.
And there were 2 of our young adults from last June here at Create Your Future.
Yeah, so, you're lighting a spark. You're showing them a world and a way and a community that they can come in and be a part of, and they're welcome. And a lot of young people want to be welcomed into the older generation. I think there's a lot of animosity that's been fostered between the generation that I think is not well placed. We should be cooperating. In fact, there's financial ways to do that. You can take equity from your property and invest it with a young person's credit score and go accumulate more property. That's something we're going to be talking more about. I think one of the other things that is really a practical preparation tip is to look at ways to reduce your dependence upon institutions that are frail. And so specifically cash outside the banking system, liquidity outside of the dollar, precious metals, for example, or maybe crypto, ammo we talked about. I think that's important. We have been big proponents of getting wealth out of Wall Street and onto Main Street. So that's our syndication emphasis is all about helping people who know how to make money on Main Street, buying properties, fixing properties, managing properties of whatever type, and then aggregating capital from people who have their wealth currently in Wall Street, which I think is a casino. It's extremely fragile, lots of air, there's all kinds of shenanigans, and moving it onto Main Street where it's actually you're investing in the communities right around you. There's no reason to launder your money or filter your money through Wall Street where they skim some off and give you the rest, right? Those big buildings, those big ads, those big salaries, those all come from someplace. That's a profit they're making on your money.
You bet.
And that's your money. And they're not adding that much value. So there are ways to do that. That's why we put such a big emphasis on syndication. And of course, the list goes on and on. I know we're out of time. But when you get together with people and you think about how can we become more resilient? How can we reduce our dependence upon frail, fragile, untrustworthy institutions? How can we use our capital to do, as the late, great Gene Guarino would say, to both do well and do good? And when you're investing in building real properties, real infrastructure, providing quality housing, whatever it is you're doing in your investing as a way to build your own personal community farms, resilience ranches, whatever it is, if you're doing that and you're helping other people moving money, you become a big active part of the solution. Robert, you talked about that garden that you have where you get that sense of pride because you know that you're making a difference. It's a small difference.
Yep.
It's like recycling a plastic bottle. It's a small difference, but if everybody does that, it's a big difference. And so we're kind of inviting you, we're probably preaching to the choir right now because this is our show. Share the show with other people. Now, if you're having a hard time articulating to people kind of what you're thinking or what you're saying, share this show with other people. Point them to the George Gammon event. Invite them to come to the summit or with you and have a great time. Build community by attending events together. I mean, there's so many, many, many things you can do. Just encourage you as the year is fresh. It's blank slate in front of you. You can think about all the things you could accomplish and achieve. Don't forget about building community, investing in community, and then it starts with your education and then your outreach. And if you do that, then I'm sure we'll meet you face to face at one of these events sometime in the future, and we will very much look forward to that.
If you want to collapse time frames when it comes to building your tribe of awesome folks, then come on out to the 20th Annual Investor Summit. You can get all the details by sending an email to summit@realestateguysradio.com. But don't delay, we're more than 70% sold out. Thanks for listening today. Whatever preparation looks like for you, set aside some time in this new year to be prepared. Until next week, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton.
Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys Radio Show.